This news is really getting a lot of attention among the XRP holders. They're thinking, what's happening? Okay, if Swift and the 11,000 institutions are moving on to a different blockchain, what will Ripple and XRP do? Right? That's something a lot of people are starting to ask, like, okay, which organization have they partnered with? Okay, it's Symbiont. What are they doing? Who are their partners? How will this impact you as an XRP holder? So if you are here looking at this to understand the reality of that, this may have some surprises for you, because this can be that question of, is that a Ripple killer, or is this thing being built on Ripple? But at the same time, before we jump into that, I would like to highlight this. The CPI came in more than expected, 8.3%. That's the reality. But the positive side of that is when you look at it on a monthly basis, we are dropping. This is kind of, still at the bottom, a dead cat bounce you can call, most likely. What you have seen here is a gradual increase to the upside if you plot the average line. But after that, it's a dramatic decline. So if you look at it on a year-on-year perspective, that was 9.1 at the peak, then 8.5, and 9, right now 8.3. Great. So yes, it came more than anticipated, but at the same time, it is slowing down. So let's see how things are going to evolve and how Fed is going to respond to this, because they were talking about this maybe 100 basis point, 75 basis point. Who knows, right? We need to actually discuss through that. This is a scientific investor family where the normal retail guys learn how to become the next top 10%. So guys, as we discussed, these are things which are evolving in the market. We just knew, like, okay, there is something going to happen. Whether it's positive, negative, it all has to be seen. And right now, the way market shows us, it did drop. So we see what's happening in the market right now. The price is dropping. We need to see how low it's going to drop. We have a support here. And we do have to see like how low we are going to manage to move. Because if you look at this, in general terms inside the crypto market, last 24 hours, this went into the crypto exchange. When you actually move stablecoin to the exchange, it's most likely to buy crypto. And right now, it seems like there's a lot of coins which are running on a fire sale. So we need to see how much of the money actually goes in to this range where they are going to buy a lot of it. So we will see bounces here and there. You will see random coins holding up and then slowly trying to bounce against the market, right? That will definitely happen. But today, after that, one of the biggest issue which we need to talk through is this. Swift is actually going on with big guys. Great. They are going to do a blockchain platform for their use case. Now remember, it's a big platform with 11,000 financial institutions, over 200 countries and territories. So that's like $1 trillion in transaction. That is not a small thing. But right now, when someone actually put this one, what I would say is like, take your time, breathe, fine, and then go look at like, okay, what's the company doing? They are in the same industry as Ripple. Okay, they are trying to do the payments. Okay, that's all great. Moving value, that's fine. And what are the solutions they actually offer? Fine. This is what we have read here. When you are reading through this, you will actually understand like, okay, Swift is going with a fintech company, Symbiont Inc. Great. And they are trying to do dividend payments and mergers. So it's not actually a small thing. It's all in payments market. Fine. But one of the things you have to understand is with the latest pilot project, Swift will automate corporate action workflow using this technology. That's called assembly. It is said in the post like Swift will use platform's smart contracts and blockchain capabilities to create a network that affects leverages to our 11,000 plus financial institutions. Great. Now let's actually go look at like what's Symbiont and how they do things, right? So when you read through this, this is their so-called product. Great. Now this is back in 2016. So when you are looking at this, you need to keep that idea. Okay, back in the days, you didn't have a lot of other platforms to mingle around with, talk to with, at least to develop something with, if you really wanted to do something. So as you go through, you read through, you are like, okay, let me see what really is happening inside this. So now when you're going through this, you will actually see like, okay, they actually tried up what? Bitcoin blockchain, and they understood that that's not something for faster transactions. Great. And then they actually now moved into something different, which supports Ether, Hyperledger, and others. Great. And that engine, which actually works for them, is powered by what? BFT, Smart Consensus Algorithm. Okay, what is BNT? They have given the GitHub site, right? So first, before you go into that GitHub, different stuff to understand, you really need to actually look at like, okay, what is that BFT? Now this is a research article which I've read and I'm like, okay, that's not bad. This is Byzantine fault tolerant. So that kind of gives you a narrative. Okay, this is what it actually means. If you want to read through, that's actually great. This is the title of the article. Now, when you go in to actually see what they are doing back in the days, a year before that article, 2015, before you actually saw them coming out with this product assembly in 2016, you got this one here, 2015. What are they doing and how are they doing? It's actually something really interesting to know because they announced its first product, a Ripple gateway for counterparty, over which they will actually use counterparties native currency or any other counterparty asset that can be sent. So take this clearly, it's not just messaging platform, it's asset value being moved. Great. Through what? Ripple gateway. Now what is Ripple gateway in their terms? You come through this and you read through this, which is a Ripple gateway implementation with minimal transaction fees. And I'm like, okay, is that XRP ledger? Read through this. The gateway allows users to send counterparty assets through RippleNet. So that's Ripple network. And to transfer those assets back into the counterparty network. So I'm like, okay, that's great. If this is what Swift is partnering with, I'm happy. Both the Ripple and the counterparty network assets may be stored in offline for maximizing, the security purpose. By being a member of Ripple network, now they are saying this, understand this. It's not Ripple saying that, it's Symbiont saying this. By being a member of Ripple network, one may potentially become a part of others' trust network. So this is opening gateways for them. And they've been working on this from some time. So you see this and you're like, okay, I get that. There is something cooking. Great. Now what you want to look at is, yes, they are working on this. This is the engine. Great. Now we are looking at how they are going to deploy this. So their process is here mentioned as containerization, which is using, Docker software. Now you go into that. Docker is fine. Now, if you remember back in the days when Chris Larson or David Schwartz, when used to highlight things like how things are moving, they used to highlight like, shipping containers, containerizations, and how you move stuff. And this is something which they are talking about here. A Docker container using the Docker engine, which run on the Docker engine. Great. Now we are like, okay, what do I have to understand from this? Because when you actually move on trying to read through this, you kind of get like, okay, they are already talked about BFT. And when you come on to that engine of BFT, you see this, it's native XRP. This is for Ripple. Has one of the highest cryptocurrency market. Now that's back in the days, great. Now even today we are there, but that's not the point here. Power this network and is generally considered to be a Byzantine fault tolerant agreement protocol. So when you see BFT, you need to understand that's Byzantine fault tolerant, and that's what is used to power this stuff. Great. Now, going back to the containerization for Docker engine here, I'm like, this is so massive. And if it's me reading through this and understanding this, I'm like, okay, for the ledger will need to be time updated. And what is this? A Ripple test net using Docker. So now you go into this and you're like, okay, Ripple XRP private test net for Docker engine. I'm like, if there are software engineers who understand these codings, they can give you even better explanation for this. But when I look at this, like the private Ripple testnet, and that goes on Docker, I'm like, okay, so there is something happening. And there's private testnet using the Docker engine is now going in for Swift. So, at the end of the day, all these collaborations like City, Vanguard, all of this is boiling down to this, where the base or the foundation is going to be XRP ledger. A lot of people can deny this, but when you go through this, it's huge. It's huge. Why? It's small scale networks connecting into a lot of different, you get into that network and you increase the value. So if you want to go through this coding part and understand that, if you are, that coding guy, you'll understand this, right? And you come here, the Docker executive validator rippled. So I'm like, okay, this is really something big. And if you are that guy, you'll be like, okay, the file name is Ripple testnet, and you actually read that above. Now, under the research, if you want to actually go through and read, this is interesting. You actually get university guys doing this, and the work is funded by Ripple's Impact Fund. And this is back in 2018. And I'm like, okay, this really is something big. Why? When they put money in research and people understand all the stuff and come out, like this really is something big. Because this is all from the beginning. This is all anticipated. This is not something new. They've been here from a long time. This article is from 2016. And you see how things are evolving. So yes, the financial industry is super slow. So if you have previously seen King Solomon's video, one of the recent video where he was, I think there are a couple of them, where he was talking about Fed payment system and how it is all connected back to the Ripple net. I'm like, okay, this all boils down to one thing. It's the Fed talking about this. It's the Swift highlighting like a new product on a blockchain platform, which is going to be, competing against old stuff in the market. But again, if you look at the reality, this is where you end up. Great. So if you are there and someone is pointing this to you and saying, okay, that's a Ripple killer, this is the reality. So guys, yes, we actually saw this coming out, which does not actually look that great. You're still here. It's still up 8.3. But there is a possibility that the oil price is continuing to the downside. If you look at the dollar index, it just got life back today. It was slowly, going back down, and then it jumped. With the CPI numbers coming in, it's gaining strength and it is trying to go back up. But what we are trying to see is that if it gets rejected here, that's again a bullish news. Meaning for assets, it will get slowed down. But what we want to see is this slows down at 11 or 12 to the max and then come back down. Because things will be slow. Because people, it's like the news and sell the news, you are going up, trying to push higher. And CPI numbers just came in, you are kicking lower. So your support is way lower for these stocks, the technology stocks. If you are in that, consider that's super risky. And when you come onto this, what you need to actually see is how things evolve. This is actually slowly breaking lower and going down, but in next 8 days, you're going to see the Fed and they're going to do something to the market. For sure, they are going to do something weird. In my opinion, they are going to try and do something. So when you are in the market, you can first take a step back, zoom out and ask that question to yourself like, okay, where are we going? This was the pattern. You broke higher, you came lower, retested that and bounced. But with the news, there is a short-term fluctuation happening in the market. So this breakout to be valid, like this breakout, it need to retest this and bounce. So if it is retesting this range and bouncing, I'm fine. That's still inside the same narrative, just you got some short-term news. So as you look at this, I would be like, okay, the strength can come lower and bounce. You still have room. Because when you're doing this, even at that point, understand the RSI is trending to the upside, which is a bullish divergence with the price. So if you're in the market, for me, this is like, okay, search for opportunities. search for opportunities. We were actually doing a weekly to see like which is a buy, which is a sell, which is like stay away from it, wait. I'm going to do that again tomorrow, because we need to actually see 24 hours after CPI how market reacted for all these various different assets and see the sell pressure for some of the assets. Great. So we will be doing that again. So guys, if you are here and you receive value for your time, please do hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't done that already. And if you want these kind of updates for the assets you have in your portfolio, you can look at the Patreon. The link is given in the description below. So that's it for today, guys. I'll meet you on the next video. Bye-bye.